Here it is, it's rendering. So it's preparing to stream the meeting. All right, I'm going to go ahead and start off. Everybody should be off of mute. Let me see. All righty, we're back at you and gloves off. And today we have a great array of guests that are running and also for re-election for the city council position, District 5 of the city of Laredo. I want to welcome everybody and I want to thank every single one of you candidates, number one, for stepping up to the plate and trying to make a change for Laredo. We're going to go ahead and start off with the opening of each candidate. Councilor Vilma, would you please start? Everybody should be on mute.
Can you hear me?
Oh, sorry. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now. Yeah, everything's fine. Everything's kosher. If you can go ahead and start with your opening.
Yes. Thank you very much for this opportunity. And well, 4 years ago, I decided to run for city council because I was fed up with what I was getting as representation. I was fed up to go to city council meetings and be complaining and be trying to make a positive improvement. So I decided to be an advocate for my constituents because enough corruption was enough. And lo and behold, soon after I got elected, the FBI landed into the city confirming all of the allegations that we were saying regarding the corruption. I feel that as an advocate, a professional advocate, as an attorney, I bring a lot to the table, have been able to help in a lot of the legislation that we do at the local level, legislative representation at the state and federal level as well, working with my constituents, working to help small businesses, working also with people of different needs, for example, with the special needs community, working with teachers as an ex-educator myself, working also with mental health, in different programs of need for the community, health services, infrastructure. And so I've been able to utilize my education as a teacher, as a psychologist, as a former chief prosecutor, as a business owner, and my personal experience as a mother of 5, multitasking and balancing all these facets of the city. So I think that God has given me that opportunity to put all those pieces of the puzzle of my life together and help my community. And I'm very welcome for my constituents' response, having been elected. And I know it's difficult to be in a political campaign. And I thank all the distinguished gentlemen that are putting their hat in the ring. And may the best person win. And thank you very much for this opportunity.
Well, thank you, Councilor. Now, Mr. Beckelheimer, if you can give us your opening.
Yes. Mr. Maria, nice to meet you. Ruben, good to see you again. Nelly, nice to see you this afternoon. Paul, thank you for hosting this. This is nice. Appreciate the effort for the better, for the greater good of the city. I moved back to Laredo in 95, the end of 95, and committed to being a part of this community. I did so from 1997 to 2004 on the Citizens Environmental Advisory Committee. We crafted the Commercial Litter Abatement Ordinance, the Hazardous Materials Handling Ordinance, the MS4 revamping for the entire city. We worked initially on the plastic bag ordinance, the landmark green space ordinance, and my personal agenda item triumph was the partnering with the Laredo Independent School District for the for the environmental education curriculum. I transitioned to the school board in 2002. I won my first election in the subsequent 2 terms. I'm a 3-term LISD trustee. And I leveraged my trustee position with my chairman of the Citizens Environmental Advisory Committee to really champion the item I just spoke to, the environmental education curriculum. That resulted in 2 years later, the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality awarding the city of Laredo the Excellence Award for, I quote, a unique endeavor they've never seen before between a municipality and a school district. That type of thinking is what I bring to the table for anything having to do for our residents and our citizens. I served from 2002 to 2012 as an LISD trustee. Stepped down, did not run for re-election in 2012. I moved out of the district. I've been here in Regency since. January of 2019, I was on the same date, the exact same date, I was appointed to the Planning and Zoning Commission for the City of Laredo, as well as the Regional Mobility Authority. That gave me a very unique and exceptionally profound insight into the significant growth that's happening in Laredo. And it showed me that there was a lack of communication going on between the different departments and the taxing entities, as well as the state of Texas, and to a degree, the federal government. And it concerned me. So we have enormous growth in South Laredo with regards to residential growth.
Mr. Beckelheimer.
Enormous growth in lower. Pardon me, have I gone too long?
Yes, you've gone. It's okay, no problem.
Okay, let me wrap that up. So for the past 18 months plus, I've served in this capacity with planning and with the Regional Mobility Authority. And I'm very, very excited for the prospects of the city of Laredo and our long-term health, but I'm very concerned that there's not unified attention and discussion and analysis going on to make sure we execute this efficiently, intelligently, with safety a hard priority, and maximizing our potential and not losing the business part to the valley. Sorry, I went too long. That's my platform. Among other things, it's problem solving and finding solutions.
Okay, Mr. Marina. Got
Supposed to be 2 minutes.
God bless you all. Thank you, Paul, for doing this incredible meeting. Hopefully a lot of people will be watching, because as you know, everybody knows what we're capable of doing and what we have done for the past, in my case, 51 years or since 1950, when my dad opened his first business here for the community, which had changed the geography of Laredo. We, the custom house brokers and the freight forwarders, have changed the city and the geography, and we represent working class America. We, the working class America, would like to see some changes and to be heard. We don't want to be told what to do, or we don't want to belong to a dictatorship that we have been going through all these years. Since 1950-51, we have gone around a roller coaster in businesses with issues with the devaluation of the peso and all that stuff. I have helped all the candidates from right to right in the restaurant that I run, and I've been very praised to know all of you in one other shape or form. Yes, I have helped you, and yes, I was there, and yes, nobody has dropped to my house or to my business to give us any help or assistance. That's what we are tired of, listening to some of the people. I have heard that what should I worry about the freight forwarders and the custom house brokers if they don't vote. Little do you know that their families do vote, and we all came here to change. We believe in Laredo. Back in 1950, I don't know how old you are, but we didn't have banks and we didn't have anything, but it starts to grow. And we have always been involved with the community. I have been helping people with special needs, both schools, and I'm a working person. I have never worked out of the government. I think I'm the only one in this case that have not made their living out of the government's budget. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Marina. Mr. Gutierrez, your opening, please.
Good afternoon, guys. First, I'd like to thank God for giving us this beautiful day in Laredo. I think it's about time we get this gorgeous weather. It's been horribly hot the last couple of months. Thank God for him giving us this opportunity. And of course, thanking you, Mr. Buitron. George wanted to say hello. Mr. Marina, of course, hi, how are you? And Ms. Vilma, hi, thank you all for joining. And thanks for the opportunity of giving me this presentation. First off, I'd like to say I'm a 22-year, I've been serving the police department for over 22 years now. I'm a master peace officer. I'm the lead instructor for the traffic division in the police department itself. I'm a small business owner. Me being a police officer out on the street obviously gives me a unique view as far as the community is concerned. I'm out there with the community day in and day out. I hear their concerns, I hear their issues, I hear their problems that they have, and there's plenty of them here in this city. To sit back and say that everything is going wonderful, going great is far-fetched. I just hear complaint after complaint after complaint, and I'm here to do something about it. I've got a close relationship when it comes to the police department itself. I think we can really make a change as far as transparency is concerned when it comes to the city government. I think infrastructure needs a lot of work. I think we need to work on that as well. Our veteran or elderly population, I think, needs to be looked at a lot further, more in depth, because of the fact that they are suffering out there. They really, really are. And for the city to be spending money the way they are now is spending it as if it was their personal pocketbook, and it's not their checkbook. You know, it's your money coming in, and I'm here to look out for that. And that's something that needs to be addressed. And that's why I'm here. That's why I'm here running. I'm with you. I see your problems. I see your concern. I'm in there. Like I say, in my position, I'm very unique in the fact that I'm out there with the people day in and day out. And it's something needs to be worked on. And I'm here to do that, give you myself so I can represent you like you should be represented.
Thank you, Mr. Gutierrez. The first question and the first person that will answer will be Mr. Beckelheimer. The first question is as follows. The city of Laredo has a habit of entering into projects and lawsuits that lead the city into financial difficulties. In the past several years, leaders have been led astray by political groups, activists, and have been manipulated into lawsuits and losing those lawsuits, such as they have lost faith by their citizens of Laredo. How do you feel about bringing forth projects that might lead our city into further debt just to satisfy certain groups of individuals? Mr. Beckelheimer?
Thank you, Paul. Well, debt in and of itself, just to say, of course, isn't necessarily a bad thing, dependent on the reason for the debt and the terms of the debt too. But you end the question with just to satisfy certain groups or individuals. Well, that's a terrible idea. If it's just to satisfy certain groups and individuals, whatever is brought forth has to stand alone as being a good idea after significant analysis. Just plain and simple. There has got to be data behind it. It has to have common sense to it. It has to be something that can be implemented, something that can be that there would be follow through, reviewed for the probability of success to grow on it. Okay, so 5 seconds.
10.
Okay, and so anything that might trigger a lawsuit obviously is a red light. But if your question, to summarize, if your question is, should council whimsically enter into any kind of a project for an individual or a group? The answer is, of course not. Nothing should be whimsically done but by the taxpayers' money.
Thank you. Now, Mr. Marina, your answer?
Well, definitely not. We have so many problems and we are spending too much money because of those little issues handled by the city. Right or wrong, mostly they're taking more expenses into higher insurances because they know the dimensions of the money that they have to settle on. Interest of everybody will know that there's always interest in some of the groups, like I learned in my campaign, clicas, that some of you or some of the people don't admit that they exist and they belong to. And those people are the ones that are taking the city or holding the city. In my running, what I have heard, not concerns, they use very strong words. The city has been kidnapped. Whenever you experience a kidnap, you mean that how strong of a term that is. And I think that we have to watch every single penny, where is it spent and where is it going and who's benefit. And that's only for the benefit for the people, by the people, and to the people. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Gutierrez, your answer?
Yes, sir. On that question, these projects need to be put on hold, especially right now with the way the city is running under a $24 million shortfall. That's plenty of money that needs to be made up one way or another. For us to be spending money right now on businesses or trying to do little projects to just feed one particular person or one particular family or a special interest is absurd. The city is hurting. The citizenry is really hurting here. So we need to stop this wasteful spending that I spoke about a minute or two ago. This needs to stop completely. So you cannot have projects going on, whether it puts us in debt or not. In this particular time that we're living with COVID-19, it needs to be stopped. We cannot continue investing monies. We need to start helping out the community, helping out our small businesses, because they're the ones that are hurting. They're closing their doors. We need to stop that now.
Thank you, Mr. Gutierrez. Counselor, your answer?
Well, I am an attorney and a former prosecutor, and I've been looking very carefully at these prior mistakes that have been made with contracts such as Dannenbaum. I was able to bring in contract compliance. I was able to bring in a debarment statute where anybody that wants to do dealings with the city and has any prior lawsuit or any criminal pending investigation, we do not want to do business with people that are not reliable. I'm a steward of the taxpayers' money, very conservative in spending and frugal. And also, I don't think and don't agree with the sports complex being unable to, having a blank check. So I'm asking for limits. I set limits. And that's also on my agenda item for Monday, coming back with a financial plan as to how are we gonna get out of that debt, defease the credit card debt, as you will, and see how we're gonna transition so that we can move into 4A, 4B taxation that can help us for industry development and workforce development.
Thank you, Counselor. Now, for the following question, and Mr. Marino will be the one starting the answers. Local city governments have not been abandoned by the federal government. Congress has earmarked and sent over millions of dollars of COVID-19 relief money for local governments such as Laredo. Do you agree that the city government has been silent or opaque or not transparent with the citizens as to how and where the money is being spent? If so, how would you spend that money? And this question directed directly to Mr. Marina, and we'll go forth from there. Mr. Marina?
Thank you. Definitely, they have not been transparently or clearly. There have too many interests and committees formed around the city that have the obstruction, I don't know if purposely or improperly, to not see those rewards or money to help the businesses. I'm as a businessman and the small businesses, we know and everybody plays about it and brags about it, but you all have left us alone. You all have left us alone in the working class America, your restaurants, your hotels, your taxis, your movies, the shops. Don't tell me. I have a bunch of people that can vouch for that and you leave us alone. By the time that the pandemic is over, what would the money that the government said was gonna be used for? For another park? I don't understand this. I think that they have not been clear. And I know you raised your hand, I respect you. And I don't want to get over my term. There's a bunch of things to say about it. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Gutierrez?
Yes, sir. As far as spending money that the government is sending out to local government, to the city of Laredo, the city council has not been transparent. It has not been transparent. It's not showing us where the monies are going or where they're being spent. And that's a big problem. And that's one of everybody's platform, that's on everybody's platform that's running for this position and for every position out there is transparency. We just don't see that as a citizenry. And it's something that we've been asking for the past 30 years. And we still can't see that. That's something that is just uncalled for. It needs to be addressed. It needs to be addressed now when it comes to small businesses are hurting. They are hurting. They've been hurting since March when COVID-19 started. Shutting down businesses here in town. Obviously, it's for the good of some citizenry, but you cannot keep them shut down because people cannot make a living. They can't support their families. Restaurants, hotels, shops have been shut down. We need to improve that. We need to improve on transparency when it comes to.
Thank you. Counselor, would you answer that question, please?
Yes. Well, definitely the pandemic has put strains, and we locally have been trying to support the businesses, although we cannot supersede the governor's orders. And when we're able to, I've been meeting with businesses, with the bars, trying to help them to reopen, trying to bring in also the monies. I think the transparency, it's all on the webpage. I made sure to submit everything when I started. That was one of the requests I was making. And so everything's now online. All you have to do is go to the finance department and you can see the financial reports, the purchasing ledger, the district priority funds, the payroll, accounting, everything is online. So transparency and accountability is something that I've been bringing also to the table. And so it is a difficult situation for the business owners, but we brought in small business grants. I led a work commission with Workforce Commission and with LC. And that's what you see right now, workforce redevelopment. We dissected the demographics of unemployment and underemployment, and currently 855 people are benefiting from retraining, from the 25% from the CARES Act. That was one of my motions as well, to have that for economic development of our city and invest in our citizenry.
Thank you. Thank you, Counselor. Now, Mr. Beckelheimer. Mr. Beckelheimer, can you hear us?
Apologize about that. I believe that there's good data, not complete, but good data on the city's website that does explain some of these expenditures. I don't know to what degree, if it's 10%, 50%, but I know that there's some because I've looked. Having said that, the council members should make it a point to verify that when they're spending the monies, that it is made available, not just made available, but advertised to the public, so the public doesn't say, hey, you all are doing sneaky stuff, and to tell them, well, you got to go look it up. I've been told that for years. Well, you got to go look it up. And I understand that people need to do their own due diligence and look up information that they need. But ultimately, this is such a significant deal in the history of our city and the world that we really need to advertise what we're doing with the monies. Having said that, I don't know what limitations the federal government has placed on the spending of the monies, but I would definitely find a way to advertise and assist going back to business for our small businesses and assisting the socially economically disadvantaged with keeping their homes clean and germ-free.
Absolutely. Thank you. Now, for the third question, and the first person that will respond for that will be Ms. The next question. We understand that citizens are free to choose what they want to do. This includes financial capacity to afford their choices, and thus closely feel that we are not in a secured environment to protect those investments, meaning that we lack the security of a drug-free neighborhoods, which we know that do not prejudice any social boundaries. How are you going to deal with our law enforcement to better suit the needs of a more secure environment? You start off first, Mr. Gutierrez.
We need to start putting more monies towards the police department in retraining our department. The department does a wonderful job, a fantastic job when it comes to the citizenry and its safety. It really does. In the state of Texas, per capita, we're one of the safest cities in the entire state of Texas. So it does what it needs to do, and it even goes above and beyond. With the amounts of monies that the department has, of course, we can't have too much training going on, and that's become a problem. It's become an issue. So because the city budget is so constrained right now, $750 million budget this year, there needs to be more allocated when it comes to the police department. And it all boils down to training. We've seen trainings, and I know because I'm there, we see trainings happening maybe once every 2 years, every 3 years. Some of the trainings that we've had, we haven't been retrained in over 15, 16 years. That's a big issue. That's an enormous issue. So that's something that needs to be addressed. It needs to be spoken about. The budget has not been growing as far as overtime or anything. Nothing's been allocated extra for the department, which it desperately needs.
Thank you, Mr. Gutierrez. Ms. Vilma?
Yes, I agree. And the contractual obligations that the city has to the police department and the fire department, it's about 65% of our tax dollars that go there. So it is very difficult to have even more increase, from your tax dollars to those two departments that eat up more than half of it. And that's in every community. But we have to be more creative, have other ways of doing training now that these virtual trainings are done. I think it's easier and it should be more conducive to less expensive way of retraining our police officers. As a former chief prosecutor and I'm currently also the chair, I recently was named chair of the Public Safety Committee. We're working on several of these developments. We are aware of the needs of the police department. And there's many policy changes that need to be made also on community policing strategies so we can improve building a better collaboration and accountability. As a psychologist, I also started a mental health peer support group for our first responders, because many times they deal with very difficult situations, and to come back home or to a situation with that emotional trauma, we need to be able to give them those resilience skills to be able to control and be able to assist the community as well. And we thank them for their service.
Thank you, Counselor. Mr. Beckelheimer? Mr. Beckelheimer?
Yes, sorry about that. It's not my computer, so I'm not familiar with it. I apologize to everybody. First of all, I'd like to state that I don't feel insecure. Okay, so when we're mentioning that, how are we going to bring forth, how are we going to help law enforcement suit the needs of a more secure environment? The question I would ask you or anybody else that tells me that is, where is the deficiency? And so at that point, then we start to launch that dialogue with the chief of police and the force and whoever the people who are in charge of, or the people who know that data, so we can start a dialogue and a process of how to review the practices and where they're coming up short. That's just real critical, because people bring up things and then you find out once you start to dig in that it's pretty damn minor. Other times though, you dig in, it's pretty significant. So you would need to visit with the police force and the people who know what's going on and what is the actual deficit that they've got. Having said that, if there's a retraining that's necessary, will it be incident driven or circumstance driven? And as another candidate mentioned earlier, Paul, my understanding is that Laredo has consistently ranked as a very safe city, even though, I mean, in an impressive way, the violence that occurs just across the bridge, we seem to have done a very, very good job, and LPD deserves a lot of credit for keeping us safe.
Absolutely. Now, Mr. Marina.
I pride myself for having a very good relationship with the police forces, customs, and everybody. First of all, I guess for my district, we have to check if the police have the correct utensils and equipment in order to do their job. That's the most important thing to me. Number two, we as citizens have also a responsibility to do our part, use high technology for our houses, and belong to Neighborhood Watch, which I belong, and we have been doing it for the past 2 years. We're not waiting to do the police or for the government to do everything for us, because we know that all the money is not sufficient to help each other. We have to mediate and come to a happy medium in order to accomplish all the goals. Safe city, yes, it is a safe city. Thanks for the citizens that live in our communities. We don't like to do much trouble, and we dedicate and commit ourselves for our kids and a clean community. But definitely, I think the last rapes and kills of the ladies are something that our community cannot support anymore, and I will no longer tolerate for my community, not even in District 5 that the city composes of.
Thank you, Mr. Marina. Now for the next question, and the first person that will answer that will be Councilor Vilma. Many will agree that the property is more than just the accumulation of material. It is basically the joy of life and the prospect of being able to build an even better life in the future. With this being said, Laredoans must have an equal opportunity to pursue any type of employment across all social classes. How are you going to bring forth jobs to meet these expectations? Counselor?
I have been doing that. I have been helping with expanding the Air Marine since 2017, going to legislative session. And this year, there's 27.4 million in appropriations that is going to expand more federal jobs and retain the ones that we had. Also, as I was mentioning with this CARES Act money, I mean, the issue is funding. So with this CARES fund money, I was leading and created a subcommittee where we analyzed the demographics of the unemployed. So far we have 20 certifications that are online right now at laredo.edu, Laredo Cares. 855 people are going to benefit and graduate here with better paying jobs to better support their families after coming out of unemployment. We have trainings for truck driving, real estate, pharmacy technician, dental assistant, IT, certified medical assistants, payroll, child development, logistics and associates. And we have 274 new disinfectant specialist training. So these are all positions that we're gonna make them essential workers that our community needs, and they're gonna be able to provide better income for their families. So I've already been doing it and I'll continue to do that as well.
Thank you. Mr. Beckelheimer.
Oh, sorry, I am unmuted this time. Look, it's a great question insofar as the word happiness. You know, I speak to my children about this a lot. It's not about how much money you make. It's not about who, you know, how the expense of your job, whether you necessarily please me or not. It's that you find a way to be happy. So that's a very elusive thing. I don't have the answer right now, or else we'd have a 30-minute dial. We'd have an hour and a half conversation about it. But so you start off with your question about accumulation of materials and wealth, and you know, about people feeling happy, I think is the kind of your core there. And once again, that's a longer discussion, but with regards to jobs, there's a couple of things. For example, we're a trade town, okay? Pure and simple, Laredo's a trade town. We're no longer a destination city. We really need to work on the types of jobs that pay well, that are a complement to trade, such as manufacturing. We don't seem to be doing much of anything to grow the manufacturing sector here in Laredo. One of the things that can lure individuals to stay in Laredo and to keep or to bring them to Laredo is a better quality of life opportunity down here. More significant parks, more things of entertainment, quality items, some things that don't cost much. The Chacon linear park project's been going on since 1998. Things like that, Paul. We need to work on that to make this a destination city and a place where people want to live, not just visit family, then leave.
Thank you. Now, the next one, Mr. Gutierrez, Mr. Marina.
Thank you, Mr. Beckenheimer. For the first time, I think I agree with you, and I tell you thank you very much. But yes, because since 1950, I have belonged to the import-export family. Very proud of that. My great-grandparents were custom house brokers. Yes, we came to this city because we believe in the city, and now we believe that we can bring it to the next level. We provide most of the jobs, including the restaurant and hotel business and the import-export business. So I belong to those three companies. I'm very much concerned. We know what it needs, but we've been neglected. We've been avoided. And that's not a good way to go. These people, our people that have changed the geography of the city, want to make and invest more in their city, but the problem is that they lack trust in the government. And once you lost your trust in the government, they are opening other businesses in San Antonio, in McAllen, in Houston. As a matter of fact, I was with a great friend of mine that had his opening of a banquet room. That banquet room can be have done in New York, if you want it, in Houston, top notch, France, Paris. But I claim him and I praise him very much because even though he's a custom house broker, he also is investing in the city. So we believe in the city. We came here by choice because we love this city and we want our kids to be here and be happy. We have to bring the city to the next level as we have brought the import-export business to be the #1 in the world. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Gutierrez.
Yes, sir. First and foremost, you know, we need to make Laredo a beacon for large business, something that the business community outside of Laredo would look at us and say, we need to get there. We need to open up a business there. And of course, that would correlate, of course, with better paying jobs, a lot more people being employed here, and that would impact the quality of life here. Quality of life here needs to be improved. Obviously, we bring in more businesses, you know, make it to where people are actually making a decent wage to be able to bring up their families and want to stay here. You know, that's one thing that we need to work with. Now, with these new businesses coming in, these new creators, innovators coming into the city, we need to work directly with Laredo College, with LC, and have them be supporting them, the students, and what they need as far as technical support or technical training to be able to get in those jobs, get in those positions, making a great family, a city, or making a good, decent wage to be able to bring your family up here, want to stay here, just to improve on the quality of life in the city, and making those businesses want to come in here. This is a great community to be living in. It really is. It's a great community to raise a family in.
Thank you, Mr. Gutierrez. Now, the next question, and it'll be answered, the starting answers will be Mr. Beckelheimer. And here's where this question comes from. Laredo, as we know, is rich in tradition and culture. Traditions that many do not want to remove due to the common acceptance of practice bring us to the following question. The continued complaints of nepotism within the city hiring procedures has been heard for decades. If you, as a councilman or woman, see this conflict of interest, will you stand for procedure or remedy the issue? Mr. Beckelheimer?
By procedure, you mean what the current practice is in your perspective, Paul? This still goes on. The nepotism still goes on. Okay, see, I don't know that, but I believe you. So the first thing I would do is I'd look at it carefully and find out what's been going on, and then you would look at what our rules and regulations are, because there should be a law against hiring. You're talking about elected officials or just within departments?
As in general. Because these questions were brought, I'm going to stop this for a minute. We'll give you back the time.
Yeah.
These questions were brought by several people in different professions within the city of Laredo. We got together to see a vast amount of questions that were poured down towards us. And that's how we got to this. The lack of trust within our city runs amok within the city of Laredo. And now when I say the city, is the city government. The majority of citizens do not trust the city of Laredo, the government as per se. So we're trying to answer some of these questions to bring back the trust, because many have lost faith. So that's basically what the question is. And I'll restart the minute time for you. Okay?
Okay, very good. Okay, so I think that that city council, if they're not held accountable to that, obviously they should be. I can't imagine they would be getting away with it. But if you're speaking about HR and how hires, less, not director levels, but hires that go within departments that don't have individual attention placed on them by council. Well, the HR form almost certainly has a question that indicates on there that you need to tell them if you're related to anybody and how you're related to them within the city of Laredo and within the department. If they're not indicating that, first of all, they are indicating that, then it needs to be researched. But if they're not indicating that, then it indicates a failure of HR to not do a background check on that individual. If they are found to have lied on that application, well, I'd probably terminate them. Okay, because you have to. That's right. There's no sneaky Pete's tucking in cousins and brothers and sisters and any type of nepotism. I wouldn't accept that. Now, if it came to pass that it was a significant position and there was a relation, but the person's qualifications were solid, then they just need to make that clear to the public to know this is a relation to this other person that has a similar significant or higher position with the city of Laredo. And they let the public know about that. So it doesn't feel like same old, sneaking it under, sweeping it under the rug. So yes, I'd be willing to change it, of course.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Beckelheimer, for the answer. Now, Mr. Marino.
Thank you. Very simple to answer this one. I believe that we all should answer. We will step aside on our own personal interests, period. No go two ways about it. Number one, we see too much nepotism that we hear. We have seen some people that are still in the city in one way, shape, or form, and still representing some candidates or doing some campaigns for them, which I don't know what's so much interest. If we want to change, we have to get rid of everybody. I'm sorry to tell you, we have to change one, because this is something, to me, kind of fishy. I'm sorry, nobody wants to leave the government. Why? And we will be the new ones to change forward. But why, if they have been for so long time, why have they not changed anything? Nothing has changed. We want the change. We beg for the change. Ask your kids. We all have kids. talk to your kids, talk to the young. They can bring a lot to the table. And I also want my kids and my grandkids and everybody to live in here because I make this city my choice to live in and better my community. And if I didn't get involved earlier, it's because my kids were young. Now my youngest one finishes his master's here in TAMIU, and the three of them graduated and work for people here locally. I will step aside.
Thank you.
You're
Now,
welcome.
Mr. Gutierrez.
Yes, sir. The question was, would I stand for procedure or remedy the issue? The answer is both. You can't do one without the other. As far as the charter is concerned, it's very clear. It's in black and white. It states what you can and can't do, especially being in the position of a council person up there. As far as nepotism is concerned, that's very wrong, obviously. So you'd have to tackle both of them. If it's in the charter, obviously it's there for a reason. That's what the citizenry decided to make as far as what we should be following. And it's something that should be followed, should be addressed. As far as remedying the issue, well, it should be a pretty simple remedy. What the charter says is what's going to be done. Now, if the citizenry wants to change it, then let's put it to a vote. You know, I think it should be the opinion of the people, put them in there, get it out on a vote, and let's see what they have to say. If they feel there needs to be a change, we'll make a change. If they think it's working out the way it should be, well, we'll keep it as is. But if there is nepotism, there certainly is. There's issues. There's always been issues here in Laredo. That's something that we need to fix, that I'm here for. We're wanting to fix everything or most of the issues that are going on, and that certainly is one of them.
Thank you, Mr. Gutierrez. Councilor Vilma?
Yes, I ran against corruption, and as a former chief prosecutor, I feel that it's a need to change the system, and that's why I wanted to make those changes with the city. But I walk the walk and I talk the talk, and I've been doing that, even if it means filing ethical complaints against some of my colleagues, which is not a very politically correct thing to do, but I feel that I have not only the oath as a council member, but also my ethical oath as an attorney to continue to do good, to continue to strive for higher ethics. And that's what I've been doing. I'm against the patron system. I'm against nepotism. I'm against all these family political dynasties that want to rule the city. And perhaps that's why, I see a lot of conflict. There's a lot of incidents that we want to improve, that we want to strive for transparency and accountability. And a lot of those complaints, people confide in me because they know that my vote cannot be bought. They know that I'm going to put that to rest, and I'm going to file it with the appropriate authorities. I've done that with FBI. I've done that with the Texas Rangers. And that's what I want to do, continue to clean up the city.
Thank you, Councilor. Now, the next question, and the person that would start that question will be Mr. Marina. While this COVID-19 pandemic ravages the world, nations, states, and our city lacks leadership and transparency. First, it placed Hector Gonzalez and Chief Landin as COVID-19 response persons. Midway through, Hector Gonzalez is terminated and Chief Landin retires. Do you agree with the city leadership has failed the citizens of Laredo? Do you agree that it should be city leadership that would be needed to be in front and center of the COVID-19 battle? If so, how and what would you do?
Well, the straight answer is yes, they have failed us. We lack leadership. That's what we're here for. That's number one. Number two, I believe that the changes in the middle of a pandemic of employees of the government, of the health department, good or bad, were a bad thing to do. Number three, I believe that worldwide the action should be have taken worldwide. I believe that nobody was ready to receive this, but I think we were lied to a little bit or a lot. I don't know what interests or what families are we protecting. I don't know either. I know that there is a bunch of hospitals trying to come into Laredo that have not been allowed to, and that's what people say, kidnap the city, because I don't know, they're talking about business, but there are 5 hospitals want to come into Laredo, and that I know, and the leadership that we have has failed us greatly. I mean, right now the response is only 3 cities cannot go back to open their business, not even 75%, and that's just a punishment. But the back leadership that we have had. And that's the proof. We're talking about proven actions that the state government has taken against us. And it's as simple as that. I mean, we have an ethics committee that some of us belong to that when we don't have ethics. And that's pretty bad. And I mean, and I have told the ethics committee, and the ethics committee told me that they cannot because they don't have the money. So the ethics committee is expecting to get more money. And the beauty Laredo is expecting to get more money. We cannot be spending money, but we need the leadership in order to guide us or to have where do we spend wisely our money and our institutions and hire the correct doctors and expertise on this pandemic. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Gutierrez?
As far as the city fitting the citizens, I think no. I think they responded. I think they did what they thought was correct. I think they were at the forefront. They tried to follow CDC guidelines as far as the CDC was concerned. They did do that. They were the first city to enforce the mask, the wearing of the mask. Now, as far as business is concerned, small businesses are still hurting. So did they fail businesses? Yes, they did. They certainly did. They still haven't come out there to help us, help the small business community out there. You know, the small business owners are still hurting. The people that work for small business are still hurting. And it's been months since this epidemic took place back in March. Now, city council people were not available out the first months when COVID-19 started. You know, they were lost. They weren't able to be found in the beginning. And absolutely, they need to be at the forefront. They need to be in front. You know, being able to talk to people, talk to your people that put you in that seat. Let them know what's going on. Let them know that you're out there to support them, and let them know that you're there, that you're behind them to help them out in these difficult times, because a lot of us were running around with no answers. We didn't have the answers that we needed, and we needed to hear it from our leaders. And we didn't hear that for months after the fact. All it was implementing these rules as far as the face mask is concerned, that 6-foot distancing, staying home, shutting down businesses. Those are things that the community was running around lost when it came to something that needed to be addressed. And we needed to hear it, like I say, from our leaders. And a lot of them were lost during that time in the beginning. And that's what we needed you the most.
Thank you, Mr. Gutierrez. Counselor?
Yes, well, I don't think that anybody was prepared for the magnitude of this COVID's impact. We've been leading the nation, as Mr. Gutierrez mentioned, as being the first city implementing mandatory face masks. And logistically, we are constrained by having only 2 hospitals and tremendous growth of our city. That is why it's so important to have an accurate census count, because that the restriction by the governor is due to our hospitals. So we need more hospitals, definitely. I was not hidden. I was always, and you can check my Facebook, on different projects to help the community. I learned and I researched how to make intubation boxes. I'm not a doctor, but with the help of Dr. Delis, with the help of TAMU Engineering, and with the help of our fire department, we manufactured 10 of these boxes to help our community, to help our hospitals. I also started a face mask initiative with donations and with volunteers. We've made over 3,000 face masks. I also started a 3D printing face shield initiative with Harmony and TAMU that we right away started protecting our first responders. The grants for small businesses, yes, they're not enough. They're not enough. And not even the federal government has been able to send sufficient money. You know, they're on the second round. And we know that our budget is super constrained, but we have to be able to do more and multiply, like we have been doing right now with the workforce retraining. We were gonna do 500 spots. We were able to be more creative and came up assisting 855 people with workforce redevelopment to help them rebound after this economic situation. Mental health and fitness. I started also that repository of videos by all of our mental health and fitness experts to help out our community, to balance everything that we're going to, this anxiety of this period. And that is what we need to help out small businesses to reopen as well, and centralize the information. And that's what I've been doing, reaching out to businesses to help them get them back on their feet and retrain as well how to comply so that we can help them to open up.
Thank you, Counselor. Mr. Beckelheimer.
Well, I think it's very, very easy to look over our shoulders and tell everybody how they did something wrong. Now, I'm not defending anybody on council. I'm not defending the city manager. I'm really saying that until you've been there yourself and looked at it carefully and what actions were available to us, it's hard to say that they failed us. I think that's a very powerful word, and it doesn't necessarily apply. Okay, everybody's saying, well, somebody's fault. No, it's nobody's fault that the virus get over here, unless you want to, blame it on China. But the fact is that it got here. Everybody was scared out of their minds. Okay, so the city have done a better job? Yes, it's easy for me to say that in September. Okay, should they have advertised, for example, a better effort for the city leaders, as you asked, to have stood up and say, you need to have personal responsibility and follow hygiene protocols before we come in and start legislating stuff that then takes you right away to find a solution for yourself. So then we would educate ways to solve it. We would then, not ways to solve it, but how the disease is transmitted, help them come up with ideas of how to engineer a solution. What are those hygiene protocols looking like? And then, of course, law enforcement would have to enforce it. So you'd educate, engineer, and enforce. With the issue about Dr. Gonzalez and Chief Landin, once again, wasn't there in the private meetings why the chief retired. Might have been his time to retire. I know he took a second job immediately. Why Dr. Gonzalez left? I think he's been a very good health director for the city and Webb County over the years. But people make their own decisions. It isn't necessary. I'm not trying to sit on the fence on this. I don't really know why they did that. Only they know, or people who were privy to the inner conversations about that. That's what I would do, though. I would do the education. I would engineer how to keep their stores and their retail establishments safe, and then help them get the supplies that they need, such as the small businesses that we keep talking about. I mean, good almighty, you can't say, don't get sick and follow these laws and rules without providing some assistance. It's just not reasonable to think everybody's going to think about it intelligently.
Thank you so much, Mr. Beckelheimer. Now we're going to come up with the closing. And the closing, we're going to start off with, you have 2 minutes, and it'll be Mr. Gutierrez who's going to be the first one, and then we'll start from there.
First off, I'd like to thank you all for hosting this, Mr. Buitron. I appreciate it. I appreciate everybody that's on this Zoom debate. What I want to bring to the city, obviously, is my 22 years of experience as a law enforcement officer. I've been with PD for over 22 years now. I'm a master peace officer. I'm the lead instructor for the traffic division as far as the motor unit is concerned. I'm a local small business owner as well. I bring an open mind to the table. I think that there are issues as far as the city council is concerned. I think it's something that needs to be addressed. I'm here to address that. I want to address, of course, full and complete transparency. That's one thing that I really need to continue telling you all. I want to do and bring complete transparency when it comes to improve our infrastructure in the district. I see a lot of issues as far as infrastructure is concerned. We still see enormous amount of traffic on Loop 20 that's being stopped over and over again by traffic lights out there. Those are things that need to be addressed, that we should be able to ask the federal government for more funding. We are the #1 inland port in the entire United States. Why are we not the #1 city to be getting funding from the federal government when it comes to keep our citizenry safe when it comes to traversing in our city itself? Continue supporting and expanding veteran and elderly programs. Those are things that I really need to address as well. I see a lot of our veterans that are still struggling. A lot of our elderly people are still struggling financially. They can't get their medicines. They don't have ways of transportation to get there, get to and from the pharmacy itself. They don't know about certain ride apps that are out there now, or to be able to contact the pharmacy to deliver medicines for them. Suicide prevention programs for our children. That's something that needs to be addressed. I see this on a daily basis. As far as our children are concerned, our suicide rate here in the city, when it comes to children, teenage children, and even younger, has skyrocketed. It's unbelievable what we see out there on the streets now, what children are doing to themselves, trying to hurt themselves, killing themselves. That's something that needs to be addressed. The city has not addressed it yet. We need to get a program with UISD and LIZ. Let's get together and talk about that. We need to stagnate our water prices, our water rates. We really need to touch on that, because our rates are ridiculously high, especially for some people that are not so economically advantaged. We need to address that as well. Thank you very much, Laredo. I'd appreciate your vote.
Thank you, Mr. Gutierrez. Now, we'll start, Councilor Vilma, if you can do your closing.
Yes, thank you very much for this opportunity. I have been working very hard for my district in these last 4 years. I have proven to them that I am pro-business, knowing also with this COVID how much we're hurting. I will continue to support the small businesses. I'm also pro-law enforcement and do not want our city to go through any anarchy as we see in other cities. Regarding infrastructure, I've been pushing for a lot of changes at the state level so that they can have a change in their allocation of monies, not based by population, but based on our being the first, the #1 inland port. And so through the MPO also, we were able to allocate, I'm part of that committee, $244 million for our Loop 20. I've been a public servant since 1990, being in substance abuse treatment, counselor, rape crisis, mental health. I'm very happy to bring finally a detox facility to Laredo, which is much needed. I've been working on the airport master development, business incubator with Mile One entrepreneurial series to help out people to start their business. Bibliotech, I brought in Bibliotech. We're the second 100% digital library city with a digital library in the whole US. I've been working with veterans and providing, just this week again, we had another meeting, the programs that they have for free transportation and coordination of their services, their housing services that we have through CDBG, rental assistance right now with the COVID as well. Special needs, we have the first fully ADA compliant special needs park in my district. You know, I've been fighting for them as a mother of a special needs child. I know that they haven't been listened to, and I am glad that I've been able to bring that to the table for their needs, and will continue to advocate for them. A professional advocate as an attorney, to be looking at the contracts, to be auditing. I'm revamping the auditors committee, bringing in a committee of citizens, CPAs that are going to be helping us to go over this and flip it completely, put the eye on the price of the big contracts and of the big $1 million. So my experiences as an advocate, as a business owner, as a former chief prosecutor, as a psychologist, as a teacher and a mother, I'm anti-corruption. I bring transparency and accountability, and I will continue to do so if the people decide to select me again. Thank you for everything that you have done, and also for my colleagues here that are seeking this position. Thank you for this time.
No, thank you, Councilor. Mr. Beckelheimer.
I have 25 years of small business experience in Laredo. We've expanded out to Lytle and to San Antonio. On December 29th, 1995, we opened up our first store on South Meadow. I'm employee #1. I'm the president of my company. All major decisions go through me. Every expansion decision went through me. We have about 65 employees. So I know every type of obstacle you could possibly have faced in the private sector and in dealing with the government regulations. Everything having to do with business. I put in 7 years on the Citizens Environmental Advisory Committee, 10.5 years on LISD's school board as a trustee, 3 years as board president, approximately 1.5 years on the RMA, Regional Mobility Authority, and 1.5 years on Planning and Zoning Commission. So I have a cumulative 25 years of personal business experience and over 20 years in some type of government organization experience with real decision making. I bring that wealth of experience and of successful experience. It's important. There's a distinction between experience. Like if you sit in something for 5-6 years, people call that experience. No, my experience is real decision making. It's looking at problems, finding solutions, not taking no for an answer, trying to find a better way, being more efficient, protesting when things need to be protested by government regulations. You all would be shocked at how often a regulation is interpreted by how somebody feels about something, not by the letter of the law that's written in the regulation. I mean, there's so much detail that I can share about decision making and problem solving and analyzing a situation. There's a couple of quick examples. The green space ordinance that I mentioned earlier, that brought the city of Laredo's attention, and the community in general brought their attention to our waterways. That what directly resulted from that was the North Central Park, as well as the Bartlett Park, and the resuscitation of the linear park of Chacuan Creek. My experience in all these areas, in particular RMA and planning and zoning, are very relevant to what's been spoken to the two previous speakers with regards to our trade status and our unique opportunity to continue to lead the country in everything having to do with trade. We're expanding in North Laredo at an unprecedented pace. We're expanding in South Laredo with regards to our residential construction. And I've been watching that and have answers to assist in how that unfolds in a successful way. I would love to be city council member for District 5. My experience is there, and my success speaks for itself. Thank you very much, Paul, and good luck to everyone here.
Thank you, Mr. Beckelheimer. Mr. Medina?
All right.
Everything you have, I thank you, Paul, for everything you have done, for everything you have taught us. God, if everything is so great, why do we need to change Laredo? That's my question. So everything is so great, sounds so perfect that why do we run for? Then there's no need to change anything. We're being realistic. Thank heaven, everybody knows us. They know what type of work we have done now and in the past, and where we started and where we are. I thank the Lord to put me this way to help my community and my district, because I not only live here, but I work in the same district. I'm speaking for my soul. I hear the people on the streets, and whatever we're saying is completely different stories of whatever we hear on the streets. So bless all your hearts, be more honest, like I plan to be, more to our community, be there for us. I'm a business owner, and nobody has come to me to help in any way, shape, or form. I'm a franchisee. I can tell you that I'm an entrepreneur and I got my degree from the University of Houston. No. What is important is what I've done. I have been created jobs for my community, more than 50. I have 2 restaurants, another one that also gave, I have among like 100 employees, but I used to work in a hotel that I control 100 of them, and as an F&B director for the Hyatt Regency Corporation. But that's besides the issue, that was a long time ago. What is important right now is where we're gonna be committed to fix our community, to take it to the next level that we need it, to remain our kids, and we're gonna help out with people with different needs, with special needs. Are we gonna help the elderly? Are we going to help the veterans? Are we going to be there? Are we going to be there? We hear a lot of good things, but that's not what the people on the streets tell me. So I don't know. I'm confused. Being honest with you, I'm very confused, because that's not what I hear on the streets. And I'm willing to work for my people, by the people, to the people. I am what I am because of the people that have granted me their friendships, that have granted me the honor to visit me and to talk to me. And for that, I'm doing this with all the bottom of my heart, and my family and everybody. Expect for me the best, and I will never let you down. I'm also a hard worker. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Mr. Medina. Our time is up. I want to thank each and every one of you for standing up, placing your name to run. I want to thank each and every one for showing up for the debate, because this debate is not for me. This debate is for those that are out there listening, for those that are lesser informed. That's why I've done the podcast for the last 3 years. This pandemic, I'll talk about the questions, but this pandemic hit everybody. Everybody lost a friend, a family member. Everybody has a friend, and of course, Mr. Beckelheimer, that were sick because of this COVID-19. We have to protect our community now. Our community is number one for me. And our community needs to prosper. We want to be number one. We have to continue being number one. The way it's going, every other city is going to eat our lunch. But with all that said, I want to thank Pilar of Laredo for all those individuals that I sent, because everybody got hit. And that wasn't not only the COVID that hit them, it was depression. And we were pulling people out of the rabbit hole from going down. And that to me is the small business owners that we're losing and are losing, and we're losing their livelihoods, their homes, their families, and so on and so forth. It's kind of hard when you walk into and you see somebody with a bullet or with a gun to his mouth and you tell him to stop. Okay, so I want to thank Pilar of Laredo. And to each and every one of you, thank you for standing up again. And until next time, peace.
Joe, you have a wonderful day.
Thank you.
Thank you all. God bless.
Thank you. God bless you all.